Hi, I'm Sabita Prakash, and I am an investor for over 30 years. Currently, I work with ADM Capital, which is a sustainability focused private credit investor in the APAC region. We lend funds and help companies in the small and mid sized enterprise segment to grow their businesses. And we've been doing this for the last 25 years. Our foundation actually has done a lot towards climate conservation and biodiversity protection through its various research and policy initiatives, both in Hong Kong and across the region. For me, my light bulb moment was when I realized that big things can be done by small companies. To explain this, let me take an example, which is that in Asia, 50% of economic growth is contributed by the small and mid-sized enterprises. And so realizing that one can do a lot of work in identifying why they're not getting financing, identifying the funding gap, and making the kind of investments that are needed to help them to grow to the next level was quite the moment for me in terms of my light bulb moment, particularly because we cannot afford to leave the smaller companies and smaller guys out in this pursuit of progress. And to do it sustainably is definitely a challenge, but also ultimately very rewarding when you do realize that these are the small companies who come together and make Asia what it is, contributing to the growth of its sustainable future. As with everything, sometimes things are maybe meant to be, but also require a little bit of work. And you never know when your associations and your relationships could come interesting and useful in getting you that next job or your next asset or even your next relationship. So in that sense, I have personally believed that it is really important to, one, keep in touch and be very interested and motivated in maintaining relationships. And the second thing is to figure out how it can be made to work in collaborating on different things. It may not be helping you personally, but sometimes just being there to help two individuals, two organizations work already sends signals that you are there just waiting and ready and prepared to help and being creative about finding solutions that helps everyone grow. So in other words, I think that's the key to what sustained me and brought me where I am. Fostering, maintaining, and cultivating and working on all my relationships effectively. My top two technical skills. One is consistency. Adopt a checklist manifesto for your business or for anything that you're doing and have a checklist handy to figure out what you may otherwise inadvertently miss out. But the second is a little bit counterintuitive to the first, which is to adopt the Pareto principle in realizing that 80% of outcomes are influenced by only 20% of actions. So be very focused on prioritization to give your all to that 20% that makes a difference to the 80%. In terms of soft skills, my first soft skill that I would recommend is creativity. You don't need to be born creative, but essentially thinking of any problem situation in more than one way to identify creative solutions and figuring out the art of the possible. And solutions need not always be linear and one way. You could go horizontal and then go upwards and so on and so forth. So being creative. And the second, of course, is communication. You may be the best person. We may all be having the most brilliant of ideas, but if we're not able to communicate that and take people with us and around us along, it's not of much use. So in other words, to summarize, my top two hard skills are: one is consistency by adopting a checklist manifesto. Second is the Pareto principles of being very focused on prioritization. The soft skills are creativity and communication. ESG for me is core, but also just three sets of risks that need to be factored into my own checklist manifesto in measuring the credit profile of companies. Environmental risks, social risks, governance risks are all very core in ensuring that our companies perform, but is, according to me, just another way of ensuring that credit investors are doing their jobs well. Impact for me is all about additionality and incrementality, as it is with ADM Capital, where I work. When we look at companies and understand their ESG risks and seek to mitigate or even remove those ESG risks, we're already introducing some level of incrementality into our action. Measuring this by way of key performance indicators, for instance, kind of showcases and also gives us a sense that incrementality is being achieved, and so therefore is impact. And taking this one step further, if we are able to excite our companies enough to be able to provide them stretch targets on the ESG front or on the impact front and inspire them trying to meet these targets, that's again another level of impact that we all can achieve together. And finally, making some of these impact measures financially rewarding or punitive, depending on what's being done on the ESG front. In other words, aligning financial incentives to sustainability goals through sustainability-linked financial incentives could also work very well in terms of impact.